Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Nicholas Pythagoras, and on this YouTube channel we ask the question, how does the truth manifest itself in the real world? Or how do human values manifest themselves in the real world? And this is a topic I've been thinking about for quite a long time, quite a while now, because I'm very interested with time and space and the way people experience these things, how people experience these things via their consciousness. And it's basically the whole format of my, it's the whole basis of my YouTube channel. Now, I don't know how long this video is going to be. I don't know if this is going to be one part or two parts, or if I'll just include it in one whole video. I really don't know. We'll see how far I get. But basically, I wanted to talk about the nature of time. And basically, straight up, I'll be super direct that time is linear. There's a start point and there is an end point. There's an alpha and there is an omega. This idea that time is cyclical is developed by humans. It's developed by humanity. However, despite the fact that time is linear, I think that the idea that the world works in a very cyclical nature, because, you know, humans do have an impact, an influence on the world, that the world works in a very cyclical nature, in a very, in cycles. And this is the outward manifestation of human consciousness. And it makes me ask, where does this actually originate from? Why does the world, despite the fact that the true nature of time is linear, a start point and an end point, why does the world appear to be cyclical, and why does time appear to be cyclical? And I think the origin of this, after I have thought about this for a long time, is gravity. We get our impression of time being cyclical from gravity. And I think we can really analyze this, because putting our Greek caps on, the way the Greeks saw the world, they had the spirit and they had the body. They had the sea, if you will, and they had the land. And it's a very physiognomic idea that you can understand attributes of the soul by looking at characteristics of the world. Or you can look at aspects of the soul by looking at the body. And basically, you can see this impression, if you will, this impression of the spirit from the body, because the body is the outer manifestation of the spirit. And this is the whole basis of my YouTube channel. And so basically what we see with the world and with all this time being cyclical, or time appearing cyclical, is we see the imprinting of gravity onto human consciousness. Because think about it. Ever since we are in our mother's womb, we are floating in her womb. And ever since then, even before we can understand words, but since we develop our consciousness, we have the impression, the imprinting of the effects of gravity, the influence of gravity on us, because we're floating in the womb. Think of the oceans and how the gravity of the moon affects the tidal waves and the currents in that way. So we see this kind of, I don't want to say, dare I say, like primordial, but this before humankind, there was gravity. You look at the celestial bodies in the universe. You think of the planets orbiting around the sun. You think of the spiral nature of planets, or excuse me, the spiral nature of galaxies, and how they're formed in a spiral shape. And as I said, the orbits of the planets around the sun, it's the impression of gravity. It's the effects of gravity. And it's not only, so it has to be before humanity, but gravity has this effect on our consciousness, and we see that impression of gravity, that influence of gravity from a human consciousness developed in the world, and we see this outer manifestation happening in the world because humans do affect the world. Humans have an effect on their environment, and we can see this very much so in time. Now, the idea that time is cyclical actually is a man-made idea, and we originated it from the mythical consciousness structure. So if you want more resources on the mythical consciousness structure or the different consciousness structures that kind of manifested over time on a macro view, you can check out Gene Gebser's work, The Ever-Present Origin, and I also talk a little bit about it on my previous video, which is Why Gen Z is So Lonely. So please do check that out if you would like to. But we get this idea of rhythm and cycles from the mythical consciousness structure. And we can, for example, we see this idea of calendars that, January is the first month, December is the last month, and then it repeats. And the idea of seasons, the idea that life is birth and death, or birth and rebirth, the idea of reincarnation, that we've had previous lives. These are all man-made ideas. Because as I said before, just to reiterate, time is linear in nature. There's a start point and an end point. There is no reincarnation. There is no, there's no cycle between like birth and death for multiple, for an individual. They don't have multiple births and multiple deaths. So this cyclical idea, it's very man-made, but we see this as an impression, the imprinting of the influence of gravity on our human consciousness. And so we see this idea of cycles like in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in Eastern philosophies, that there's birth and rebirth, that there's birth and death, that there is cycles in time. For example, the Indian concept of the Kali Yuga and other stages that pertain to that cycle. But other than that, interestingly enough, I found this very interesting because I do have a background in finance. I found this very interesting that if you look at the performance of the S&P 500, which is a generalized, it's basically the stock market. But if you look at the performance of the S&P 500, about every 7 years or so, it's actually negative. So every 7 years, just about every 7 years, it performs negative. And those years are 2022, 2015, 2008, 2001, 1994, 1987, 1980, 1973, and 1966. So not all of those years are negative, but the majority of those years are negative. And the intervals is about every 7 years. So I find that very interesting. And the reason I find this interesting too is that the stock market is, in my opinion, the outer manifestation of consciousness. It is the outer manifestation of consciousness because when you get people, a collective, when you get a collective, you start to see this, to quote Carl Jung, this collective conscious or this collective unconscious. You start to see this consciousness start to form that from this collective that have this shared similar experience, which is the collective conscious. And I find this very interesting. And you see this cycle going back to the main point of this video. You see this idea of consciousness being cyclical. And where does that originate from? It originates from gravity, because gravity makes things flow in a very circular or elliptical motion in cycles. In this impression of gravity onto the human consciousness, thus then manifested into the world via human consciousness. And I find that idea very interesting. So that was the video, guys. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoy philosophy, metaphysics, phenomenology, the human experience, and studying the human consciousness, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and I will catch you guys in the next video. So please take care and look out for part 2. Thank you.